argue one of the most iconic pairings were the 1970s and Ronnie Peterson. Ronnie Peterson and his black and gold John Player Special Lotus were 1970s Formula One. The Superswede amassed 26 podiums, 14 poles, and 10 Grand Prix victories across his 9 seasons. It was his run of 5 podiums in just 9 races driving the underdog March in 1971, which attracted the eye of Colin Chapman and Lotus for the 73 season. The proud but simple blue and yellow colors of Peterson's helmet fit beautifully with those of the sleek black Lotus. The image of Ronnie sliding sideways, 4-wheel drift, left an impression on all of those who were lucky enough to be there. You can rightfully look at Ronnie Peterson as a tragic story of gone too soon, for surely he was. But you can also look at his impressive career and just how electric he was for that short period of time. It was drivers like Ronnie who made the 1970s what they were, and we're all thankful that it happened. So thankfully, with the world of Sims, we can do my favorite part and relive a little bit of what made Ronnie in this era so special. So I bring you to the site of Peterson's final career victory in 1978, a soggy and damp Österreichring for the Austrian Grand Prix, driving the remarkable Lotus 79. A challenging but evocative combination to enjoy. Alright, so here we are on the grid, lights are lit, green, we're underway. Trying to control a bit of wheel spin off the line. There we go. Get it up to second gear, up to third gear as the whole field streams out in front. It's very slick here today in Austria as we'll stream up the iconic hill, but heavy braking on this version for the Halle chicane. Second gear, trying to get up the inside of Reutemann there. He's got to give me the space as the car kicks sideways. There we go. Try to carry a bit of speed on the exit. And onto this back stretch, just touching the dirt there. You don't want to be doing that. We'll head towards Dr. Tarak corner. Brake just at the 100 marker there, down to third gear. I'll hug the white line on this lap. Oh, sneak it up the inside of that tier. I'll catch him sleeping. And pick up the throttle. 4-wheel drift up the hill. And up the gears onto the back section of the course, over the top of the hill. Water's picking up a little bit here on the surface as we'll come towards the Bosch corner. Quick flick to the left, down a couple gears, maybe 3 on this lap. A lot of water here in this corner as the water picks up. Keep it nicely on the inside. Let the track help carry you through. It's a nice cambered surface here, but it quickly turns into the opposite up ahead as the track cambers in the opposite direction you'd want it through this left-hander. Get alongside the March in front. The double left-handers here. First one is a bit faster than the second one here. Very tight at the bottom of the hill. Just tiptoe on in on this lap. So much standing water in this part of the course. The spray is quite heavy as we'll come out of there and into a right-hand flick. I can't see anything. Just the rain lights of the cars in front. Reutemann in my mirrors there. Come over this final little hill, then into the final corner. Try to spot some sort of turn in. There it is. Keep it right on that white line. Carry some speed out of the corner. Come through the first lap. That's crazy stuff. This is not far off what the real race was like towards the beginning of it. You read about the race itself, and it was red flagged after just 6 or 7 laps because of the conditions. And you could see why as I'll lock up the tires there on the inside of James Hunt now. Like Emerson Fittipaldi right behind him. Dance the car here once again. Trying to make our way up the grid, make it a little more interesting starting at the back, where Peterson actually started from the pole in this race. And if you read the box score and saw that Peterson started at the pole and led the most laps and won the race, you might think it was a boring Grand Prix, but it was anything but that as it carried a lot of speed here into the long sweeping Dr. Tarak corner. Right on another car behind me, but was able to get the position from him. And he cannot see anything now. Can't imagine doing anything like this in real life, and that's why they red flagged the race. So let out the throttle a bit early for the Bosch corner. Here we go, sneak it up the inside. Just making easy work of a lot of the slower cars, but I can see a few out front are streaming away. To the left-hander here, very tricky. Patrese on the inside there and the arrows, I believe. This is the Retro 2, Formula Retro 2 car in Automobilista 2, and most of the cars, most of the other makes are generic. But we do have the Lotus 79 here that I'm driving. There's also the BT46 that we saw right at the beginning. It's got very wide there. Just want to keep it off the grass. So Williams cuts me off in front. But I love this set of cars, and this is a skin pack by A. Fry, if you can see any of it throughout this race. Hopefully it clears up a little bit here as Hunt goes streaming on past on the outside. Oh, I get it down to second gear as the car slides away from me. They got held up in some traffic behind. I expect a few of the other cars to be very fast as well. This will be anything but processional. Come across the line there. So 8 laps to go on P12. And I'm just trying to survive at the moment, hoping the weather lets up and that we'll finally be able to see something. I don't do rain races too often because it is hard to see things, especially in a video, but it is a lot of fun and it's such a different thing, such a test, that it's a really rewarding thing when you get it right. This Reutemann there is going to fly right around the outside of Hunt. So I'm stuck in behind him up the hill. Try to get somewhat of a slipstream, although I don't know how well the slipstream works in the wet. Oh, side to side. There's the edges of the track. It's so hard to find them. A very big bad thing could happen so easily in this type of condition. Get around Hunt, get up to Reutemann again. On the brakes early here for this left-hander, just can't see where it is at all. Down to second gear. Trying to find some sort of sign of where the track is. You have the curbing on the inside of the outside of the track, which can help. We'll come through this right-hander. Everybody checks up. It's normally almost flat out through there. All right, coming over the top of the hill into the final corner, down to third gear. Just got one car looking on the inside. Hunt's going to come back around the outside. Carry some speed across the line. Losing out on that lap. We'll see what it is. P13, so I lost a position. Absolutely got to get that back. Dive up the inside here. Coming up to Heusinkveld. James Hunt on the outside. Easily get him on the entry. Just very gingerly touch the throttle, get the car to rotate. Carry a lot of speed on the exit here, side by side with Reutemann as we come out of the back section of the course. Carry the throttle. There we go. A lot of speed. I think we got checked up in front, able to take advantage of it. Pass a few cars here. It's got an Arrows in front. So try to get around him coming up to Bosch curve. Down a couple of gears. Really late on the brakes. Right in that curb on the inside. As the car breaks away. There's no grip though. There we go. Get up the throttle and finally can see something. My God, so tough in the spray. But that's what's dangerous about racing in the rain. It's not the act of rain. Obviously, standing water and things like that can be so tricky, but a lot of it has to do with the spray and just the visibility. I think this gives a pretty good impression of what it's actually like to drive a Formula car in the rain. From all the reports I've read and footage I've seen, you really cannot see anything, and I think we're being a lot more daring than you probably would be in something like this, but you just can't do it safely. But it is so much fun. All right, get it down to third gear, coming into the final corner. We'll hope the rain slows down. I think the rain actually might have stopped at this point, and it's just water on the course that everybody's picking up. Automobilista 2 is great wet weather, water dispersion and things. There'll be rivers across the track for the rest of the race, even if it went completely dry. It's a very, very cool system, and one that don't show off often enough because it is so tricky. We'll dance the car through. It's the real Grand Prix. I mentioned a little bit about it, but it was a two-parter Grand Prix, and Peterson here had the pole for it. But shortly after starting, it was much like this, and they had to red flag the race. Meanwhile, many of the cars had already spun off the track. Mario Andretti had a crash, one of his few DNFs of the whole season, his championship year, of course, in '78. And they red flagged the race. When they get every car back to the pits, Peterson is actually missing, I think Reutemann as well, and they had an accident on the cool-down lap coming back just to the pits. And then controversially, they allowed Peterson and a few others to restart, even though they had been helped out of the gravel by some marshals, supposedly. And Peterson went on in the second part, which was much drier, to win the race, and it ended up being his final win, and I think that kind of puts any controversy to rest. That I think it's a good thing at the end of the day. As we'll sneak up the inside, I think that's Jody Scheckter there behind me. I love the 1978 season, 78-79. A few reasons. It was one that I just knew a lot about because Mario Andretti had won it, being an American driver or American claimed driver. Having him won, and Ronnie Peterson was always his teammate to me at the time. But 78, such a cool season for having the Lotus 79 as well. This car, you see a lot in sim racing. In almost every sim, there's a good version of it, and it was such an advanced car. It really progressed Grand Prix racing. And 78 was its season. I always thought it was 79 because it was the Lotus 79, but it was 78 where it was the car for Lotus. And I think won 6 Grand Prix, more or less, between Andretti and Peterson here. Peterson winning just this one race on the season, but finishing on the podium many other races. And you have to remember, this car was only in part of the season. It's right up behind one of the Renaults now. At the inside, I don't know if that's Arnoux. Love the skin pack though, with the helmets that were added and everything for this. It helps add so much to it, and reminds me a lot. The other reason I know this season and these couple of seasons well is that 1979 Grand Prix mod for R Factor 1 was just one of those great things that everybody enjoyed back in the day. I made a video about not too long ago, and I think holds up really well. But this is a totally new way to experience this era, and it's a lot of fun. Just try to carry a bit of speed here. The water definitely clearing up off the circuit at this point, not the circus. But I have it set to a 10-lap race, and the weather conditions are synced to that, so it's clearing up obviously a lot faster than it would in real life, but it helps you have a pretty interesting race in a limited amount of time. Just got Reutemann closing up behind me here, so I gotta be careful to keep the pressure on the Renault in front. I don't know if we'll get all the way up to the front, but I am no Ronnie Peterson, merely an imitator. So we'll come up to the final corner. Rindt curve, as it was called by this point, in honor of the late Jochen Rindt. Carry the car sideways a little bit, a lot of oversteer there, but it's the four-wheel drift. All right, 4 laps to go, P6. Right in the points now is Jabouille in front. See if we can get around Jean-Pierre here. Second gear, a lot of wet, a lot of water still in the slow part of the track. You'd see that where the faster sections would dry first a lot of times, especially the faster corners before a slower corner, obviously off the line. Go to the left side here, see if we can get along the side. The speed in there. Let's get able to get a much better exit. I was on the wet line. All right, big run though at the top of the hill. Get alongside him, right to the edge of the course. Come through the flick to the left, come to the Bosch curve, get around him even before the corner. Down a couple of gears, 3 gears. There we go, make the pass. Just try not to bottle it up. Reutemann's closing in behind us as well. Right up to the edge of the wall there, so exhilarating. Still quite tentative on it. You can really hammer this course when it's dry, but in the wet you have to be so careful, so precise. Stay on that dry line. Miss it just a little bit there. I come through this flick to the right. It's a tough one to see where the apex is. Kind of a blind corner. But this track, I've raced here before in a few videos. Never on this version with the chicane, with the Hollow Lake chicane. I think it's one of the most beautiful tracks of all time that really looked at the hills here in Austria and painted the most beautiful ribbon of road that you could imagine to take full advantage of the natural terrain. None of this course is really manufactured. Of course, a little bit of camber in the corners and things like that, but it's all just on the natural hills, and I think it's a better course for that. They had raced in Austria at the airport across the street at Zeltweg for a few years in sports cars and Formula cars, and this track opened pretty much across the street and was instantly a classic. And I'm so happy racing happens here once again, because there was a time for many years where it looked like this track had gone the way of so many. But Red Bull just investing back in it. I know it's a much different layout these days. I actually quite like the modern layout as far as modern circuits go. I think they've done okay with it, but something extra special about this classic layout with the long sweeping corners and fast curves, cambered curves and straightaways and things. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And a little extra tricky here in the wet. Top of the hill here. Just a few laps to go, down a couple of gears in the final corner. It's getting quite dry on the actual racing line, but it's not going to dry up enough, I think, for us to get wet tires, or dry tires rather. So it's going to be a run on the wets all the way to the finish. Come across the line, 2 laps to go. P5 then. We got Rosberg in front, KK, Nico's father. It's quite far up the road though, so see if we can put a dent into that. Whoa, really messed up the hollow leak there. We'll carry the throttle. It is a lot of fun to slide this car around in the wet. If not very tricky, but it's rewarding to do. I like the Lotus 79 in Automobilista 2 here a lot for some reason, and I've raced it. Like I said, it's available for most sims at this point. I think I've raced it in at least 4 or 5 sims, and it's maybe more forgiving in AMS2 than other sims, which could be a reason why it's easy to like. But it is a lot of fun, and something about just running around these circuits and changing conditions with a full field of other drivers and things. It adds a lot to the experience. It tricks your mind for just a second that you could be Mario Andretti or Ronnie Peterson, and this is, I think, not far off what it looked like for them. I'm just keeping my eyes on the mirror too, because Reutemann is hounding me from behind. And I think I am catching Rosberg here in front, but I'm not sure if we're going to have enough time to do it. Easily able to do it. As long as we don't go offline, it should be fine now. Up to 5th for just a second. I was a little late on that shift. H pattern and clutch, of course. Dancing on the pedals the whole way. It's a lot of fun. And carry some speed out of the final corner. You can see the puddles and things on the front stretch. It's so cool. Rosberg 3.1 seconds ahead. I've got just about a second of Reutemann as we come into the final lap here. Down to 2nd gear. Really close up on the car in front. Actually not sure if this is Rosberg in front, because I believe he was Williams' driver at this point. So maybe a lapped car we'll have to contest with here on the final lap. Right down to 3rd into Dr. Tarak corner. Really sideways, hanging the rear end out. I'm trying my best to do the tribute to Ronnie. Up to 5th gear. It is one of those drivers, just another one to add to the list of what could have been had he continued. You know, Lotus was going into a period of difficulties at the end, very end of the 1970s. After this car, really, they had quite a tricky time for quite a few years until that mid-80s boom with Senna again. And so who knows what would have played out? Would he have gone to a different team? Or would he have been that little bit that Chapman needed to really perfect his designs? Only history will tell. But it's one of those great drivers, and anytime I bring him up in a video, or he's in any of the races I'm doing, I always see a few comments about, Ronnie Peterson and his sliding, and for the fortunate few that have been to races that he was in, I know he always stuck out to folks. So I thought it'd be fun to do something themed with the Austrian weekend, but about one of those drivers that doesn't get talked about enough. Really tricky in the wet, but a lot of fun. but extremely tricky there in the wet, but something that's so fun to do, and just put yourself a little bit in the head of what it might have been like for Ronnie Peterson struggling around this track in 1978.